In this section, we are going to talk about main required steps and activities to plan a project. The goal of this section is to give you a full picture of all required steps from different angles. Right now, we will just name the steps and talk about them on high level, but we will touch each step in detail in dedicated sections of the course. Step number 1. Choose workflow framework. We need to choose how we are to deliver a project, as this directly affects planning activities. There are different project management flows like waterfall, agile, Prince2, lean, and more. In this course, we are to focus on two of them. It's waterfall and agile. It's important to choose a workflow before the project starts, as this is going to affect activities, schedule of outputs, and more. We're going to talk deeply about waterfall and agile a bit later. There will be a whole section dedicated to how to set up delivery in agile style. And we will talk about difference between both approaches in detail. And now let's move to the next step. Step 2. Define project type. The next step is to properly plan a project is to define if it's fixed price or time and material project. If you have a fixed scope of work to be completed for a fixed amount of money, then it's a fixed price project. For example, you are to build a 10-page website for $10,000, so it's a fixed price project. If you have a flexible scope and got agreed to charge the client upon utilized resources, then it's time and material. For example, you have assigned a team to the project and charge a client for spent hours of work. To find out your project type, you need to take a look in the contract. Definitely you will find a hint there. It's incredibly important to figure out project type at the very beginning of the project, as this is going to affect how you are to manage your scope and budget. For fixed price projects, typically all scope is fixed in the contract and it's hard to change it, as it's going to affect the budget. For time and material, the scope could be flexible and you can easier make scope changes. Both approaches have their pros and cons, which we will discuss in the following section dedicated to budget management. Let's go to the next step. Step number 3. Understand project goals and scope. The next step is to go through the known scope of work and understand business goals. For example, we are to build a 10-page website for healthcare company. Project manager should understand business goal of the website, define functionality, content, design requirements, and other kind of requirements. Then project manager should confirm if any third-party integrations required, define infrastructure requirements, hosting, domain, and more. We are to discuss this topic in detail in the scope management section of the course. Step 4. Define timeline and build roadmap. The next step is to put known scope of work on timeline. A best practice approach is to build a Gantt chart that will display two options. Number 1, whole project scope in calendar weeks, months with key checkpoints. And number 2, detailed level, for example, 2-week detailization. What is Gantt chart and how to build roadmap in real world? We are to take a look in scope management section. Step 5. Plan resources, staffing, budget, and tools. The next step is to plan resource utilization to make sure we are to have everything required at our disposal to deliver a project successfully. We have 3 key resources. It's people, budget, and tools. Absence of access, permissions, on time, or some team members are just busy with another project and can't join your project is a typical blocker during a lot of projects. That's why a project manager should create allocation model in advance. We're to take a look on practice how to plan allocation of resources in section related to budget and people management. I will show you how to build models on real practice. Step 6. Define risks and dependencies. The final step is to define potential risks, dependencies, and create mitigation plan per risk. We're going to take a look at real-world example how to manage risks in a dedicated section of the course. We are to take a look how to identify, mitigate, and monitor risks on real projects in the next section of the course. And final step, project kickoff. The last preparation activity is internal project kickoff. Kickoff is just a call that happens at the start of the project. The whole team who's going to be involved in the project delivery is gathered together on one call to get aligned about project details. Typically, the call goes around 1 hour and run by project manager. The goal of this call is to go through the following topics. Number one, general information about the project goals from business and scope perspective. It's very important to understand business goal, as typically we develop software or do some marketing activities not for the sake of doing something, but to give a real value to the business. So each team member should understand the business goals of what we are going to do. Number two, go through the scope of work in contract. Number three, discuss timeline and main project milestones. Number four, highlight potential risks and dependencies. And the call is going to be closed out with Q&A session with the whole team. In Insights, I will share some thoughts how to make the kickoff productive. And I would like to close out this section with some insights I have gathered during my practice experience being a project manager. So, vacations and holidays. Don't forget to include vacations and holidays into location planning, as this may seriously affect deadlines, especially when you're planning for 1 year and more. You can easily shift your deadlines drastically. Team expertise. Make sure you have team with required qualification. I believe it sounds like pretty trivial, but you as project manager should make sure you're confident in each team member. Otherwise, you need to put this as a risk for future monitoring and think about mitigation plan in advance. You can't plan project with 100 precision, and that's fine, even James Bond cannot do that. Projects never go according to the plan, and you shouldn't get overstressed due to that. If it's clear for you, it doesn't mean it's also clear for someone else. Make sure you're aligned with the team about final goals, scope, timeline, risks. If you give a contract to read to 5 different persons and then ask them to explain scope of work, you will see how they explain it in a slightly different way, which can result in a serious false result later. So better to double, triple check if everyone really is aligned. Typically, people are not active during kickoff, so you need to provoke people to answer your questions. Ask specialists about their thoughts about scope and challenges they might see in the project. Transparency with risks. Split risks in two lists. One list that you can share with the client and everyone, and the second list that should be available only for project manager and core team. That could be risks that you do not want to share with the client. For example, your DevOps has never worked with Azure or JFrog, and it might take more time for him to learn this. The client is not always should be aware about the weak spots of your team. Thanks for watching this section of the course. So the goal of this section was to show all required steps for project planning on high level. And right now, let's move to the next section of the course where we will touch each topic in detail. See you.